Welcome back to another episode of What Should I Get Pierced? My name is Scott Wilkinson. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. Now, what we do here on the show is we're going to look at someone's face, we're going to look at their ear, and I'm going to tell you what would be good possibilities for piercings and ultimately what I think would look best on them. Now, let's get started. First up is going to be Hailey, and looking at Hailey's face here, we are seeing that she does have glasses on. Now, with the glasses on, that does kind of eliminate some options like possibly high nostrils or bridge piercings, sometimes even a regular nostril, but as you can see, she already has the nostril piercing, so it won't get in the way. And high nostrils could also possibly be a good option. I love the high nostril combination, obviously. And then the other option I'm going to say here is going to be just the regular nostril, just to balance things out, having the complete trifecta. One of my favorite combinations. Now, as far as lip piercings go, her lips aren't real pouty, they don't really protrude very far, so vertical lip piercings might not be the best option, but I definitely could see a lip piercing on her right side just to balance it out with that other nostril, possibly even spider bites. Kind of a cool combination. And then if you didn't want to do lower lip piercings, maybe angel bites up top. The angel bites would look really, really nice. And if you did a small enough gem, possibly getting away with the Medusa right in the middle to kind of work with the septum piercing. There's a lot of different options there, but my overall picks, I would say a nostril piercing. And that's all I think the face really needs. But if she's looking for more, don't forget about that tongue web, smiley, or possibly even just a regular tongue piercing. Let's take a look at her ear. All right, now looking at her ear, she does have one stretched lobe piercing, and that lobe piercing looks like it's around a half inch or so. I'm guessing there's probably some more stretching to go. Once you get started, it's tough to stop. But I could also see another piercing on the earlobe or two, bringing it all the way up almost into that cartilage area, which could be a real fun look. And one of the fun things I also like to sometimes do is going to be add a ring once it's healed up, bringing it through the large earlobe piercing, kind of creating an orbital. It's a fun little look you can do with a stretched earlobe piercing with an eyelet in there like so. Now, also looking at the inner part of the ear, it looks like the conch area would be a nice area for a little cluster if you wanted to add something in there, but this whole area overall isn't very large, and not having a large area, you're not going to be able to fit something like the doth piercing and the conch. So I would say pick one or the other, either the doth or the conch. Now, looking also at the tragus. The tragus doesn't really protrude a lot, so we could do something. You would definitely want to stick to a stud and possibly a smaller gem on this one. Now, if we're looking for overall more piercings, I would say just kind of follow this helix area. It's going to give you a lot of options for jewelry, and you could also do more piercings. But my overall pick for this would be a conch piercing and a double helix. And up next, we have Antonio from Italy. Now, Antonio has stretched earlobe piercings already. They are up to 10 gauge, and he told me that he did want to get all the way up to a 0. So we need to keep this in mind for the overall plans. But looking at Antonio's face, immediately we are drawn to his eyes. So that tells me we should do some sort of eyebrow piercing. Whether we do a horizontal piercing side to side like so, or whether we do let's do a straight one here. Let's do a piercing like so. There we go, a regular eyebrow piercing. We could do an eyebrow piercing on both sides, kind of match things up. And another possibility would be a bridge. Looking here, there is enough of a shadow and it looks like there might be enough tissue to actually do a bridge. But when you do the bridge, you got to make sure there's not just the bone all the way up to the front. You could cause bone erosion and cause damage. Now, if you don't want scarring on the middle of your face, the bridge piercing is not the best option, nor is eyebrows. But if you do them in towards the hairline, it does camouflage it pretty well. Now, looking at his nose, I could definitely see a septum piercing. Septum piercings are always fun, as well as a Medusa piercing. One or the other I could see there. Now, the thing about Medusa piercings is if you shave there all the time, that's really, really tough to shave around. So maybe the septum piercing would be the better option. Looking at his lips, there is a couple different options we can go with here. If he was doing the septum piercing, you could always do the gestrum, where you'd have the curved barbell on the vertical upper lip. We could also do the vertical upper lower lip with the curved barbell as well. or possibly just straight up snake bites. Snake bites with a balanced face like this could really, really work well. Now, as far as my overall picks, I am going to say septum and a vertical labret. Let's take a look at his ear. All right, so here's a little close-up. You can see already a little bit of light going through the ear. That is the most exciting part of stretching your ears, when you can actually see through it for the first time. And at a 10 gauge, that's about where that happens, so congratulations on that. But looking at these ears, the ears are nice and curved. Immediately, we're looking at the tragus. There's enough of a curve and enough surface area where we could actually get away with a double tragus piercing, having one on top of each other. Not everyone can get away with this. It looks like he would be a very, very good option for him. Now, also, we can see that the forward helix. This forward helix area is a large surface area, but we would need to watch out for that rook, because that rook will press up against that forward helix, so we could possibly get a single, double, possibly even the triple, still hiding that back of that bar. So that would be a really, really fun one. And they're far enough away, it looks here, where you could actually heal this up a little easier. These heal real rough when they're really, really close together. I did say that rook comes all the way out and touches the forward helix. It does protrude enough to where we could actually do the rook piercing as well. Having a curved barbells always heal so much better than the rings in a situation like this. We could also do a conch, because there's a large enough bulb area where we could do either a single piercing or a double conch piercing. Kind of on a double kick today. If he was doing the double tragus, I would say definitely do the double conch. And of course, once his ears got to a 0 gauge, which would bring up to probably closer to that size, we could add another lobe if you wanted to add that second lobe in there as well. So my overall picks are going to be double tragus and a double conch. And up next, we have Ashley. Now, right away, looking at Ashley, she does have some really awesome nostril piercings. It's almost like they are just high nostrils, but they're more or less second nostril piercings. Because as we zoom in here and look at her nose a little bit closer, you can see they are a little bit higher up, but some people kind of angle them back. I'm not sure exactly what happened, why she started lower, or why she got the higher ones, or if they're angled or right on top of each other. It's hard to tell from the picture, but I do like what is going on. Now, looking at her nostril, we need to finish this up with the septum piercing. Everything is symmetrical and balanced. Let's keep it there. And I would say we could possibly go with the bridge, but I also know that if we look over here, she also wears glasses, so the glasses might actually get in the way of the bridge. And another thing that's kind of cool is with high nostril piercings like this, a lot of times you can't get away with the right glasses. So having the right glasses working with your piercings like this, you can sometimes get away with a lot more. Great job on that. And then we're also seeing she already has a vertical lip piercing. We could always add extra snake bites down here on the bottom if you want to go that route. And we could do horizontal eyebrow piercings, either symmetrically on one on each side or one or the other. It seems like overall she's staying pretty symmetrical and pretty balanced. Now, the overall picks I'm going to say are going to be, I think we're going to go with just a septum piercing. And, you know, something to consider here, possibly even stretching a little bit bigger in the future might be kind of fun. Just going up to that 10 gauge, giving a little bit more metal in there, but really awesome, awesome piercings. So let's take a look at her ear. Now, right away, we can immediately see that there is a stretched earlobe here. And I love stretched earlobes. Now the thing is it looks like it might be getting a little bit thin on this spot. So you got to be careful that you stretch nice and slow. And even if you got like maybe some teardrop plugs, you could kind of shape it up that way and kind of bring that stretching up and a little bit further, getting you a little bit more size if you wanted to go that route. Now, another fun option is you could eventually pierce that second lobe and stretch that up as well, getting it to a very large size, almost as big. You don't always have to do the one large and then a whole bunch of real small ones. You can do a couple large piercings. That's another possibility. Now, also, I'm looking at that anti-tragus, the way that is standing out. We could definitely put a barbell in the anti-tragus. Not everyone has a great anatomy for that, so that's a fun option there. And there's always that option of a tragus piercing. And then as we look further up her ear, the rook is nice and long, which means we can bring the piercing actually out a little bit further so it's a little bit more visible, even looking from the front, which isn't always the case. So that's a fun, cool thing we can do. And if you wanted to, we could always do a double rook piercing. Not everyone has the double rook or the anatomy for it, so that's a possibility. And then also the conch. The conch area is nice and large, which means we could do the nice large cluster in this area, as well as the ring once everything heals all the way up. So those are all possibilities. And with the curvature of the ear all the way up, the helix could be pierced, but you don't want to do real large gems or flat ones because of, you don't want it pressing up against the skin and it's going to create uncomfortable bumps. So smaller gems if you're going to go up the helix. Now, my overall picks are going to be a conch piercing and a rook. And the last person we're taking a look at today is our Mellow. So let's take a look at our Mellow, and immediately, I'm not really seeing any piercings. I do know she has earlobe piercings, but let's work with the face. Now, immediately, I'm drawn to her lips. Lip piercings, I think, are going to be the way to go here. We could do a vertical labret piercing, possibly one that's nice and centered and straight instead of the one I just did there. I could also see angel bites. Angel bites might be kind of fun. A Medusa, a little bit lower on the Medusa, because we could also do a septum piercing and get away with both of those if that was the case. Now, looking at her eyebrows, the eyebrows look like the skin's kind of tight in that area and it might not work very well. So my overall picks is going to be a vertical lip piercing and a septum. Let's take a look at her ear. Now, she did mention that there is that second lobe piercing, but it is closed up. So it's only this first one which still works, which means we should be putting some jewelry in there and stretching it. It looks like it's nice and centered. So if we stretch this nice and large, I think that'll work really, really nicely. Now, moving on from her earlobe, moving up, let's take a look at that tragus. The way that tragus protrudes, it's just screaming to be pierced. I think we could definitely get away with a tragus piercing. Now, the doth piercing, as long as there's enough room up top there, because we would definitely not want it there, we would want it in about that far. So that way it looks like the piercing came out from inside of the ear. So that's the way a proper doth piercing would be done. If it didn't go that far in, there wasn't enough of a pocket, I would say stay away from that. But that's another possibility. And the rook piercing, looks like there's enough of a ridge where we could do a little curved barbell there. And with the curvature of the ear, you can see how this has just a nice shadow in that area. That means we could do like a nice 5-gem cluster in there. You know, the 5-gem to just like so. And then with the ridge of the ear here, a lot of times that keeps it from spinning and kind of turning into the propellers. So that's a really fun option, so it's not as frustrating. Some people who get this, it can actually just spin and they hate the jewelry. You need to have that ridge to hold it in place. Now, also looking at the conch, we could also do a 5-gem cluster in the conch to match up with that 5-gem on top. Overall, there's a lot of good options here. So my overall picks here is going to be the stretched earlobe, a conch, and the helix. So what do you think? Did I decorate everyone appropriately? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you're interested in having me take a look at your pictures, send your pictures to piercingwithscott@gmail.com. Send a picture where I can see nice and clearly the front of your face and your ear. Make sure you're well lit, your piercings are straight, and I will try to get to you as soon as I can. We have lots to get through, and I'm looking forward to getting to each and every one of you eventually. Now, if you enjoyed my video, make sure to give me the thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and of course, keep putting holes in your body. See you all in the next video.